The moment you think you're safe is exactly when the system fails you. It never happens during a declared emergency. It never happens when cameras are rolling and officials are watching. It happens on a Tuesday, a gas station line 3 blocks long, a pharmacy shelf wiped clean before noon, your phone dying at 4%, no catastrophe announced, no warning siren, just the quiet, methodical failure of a world that was never actually built to protect you. And here's what nobody in the mainstream will tell you directly. The items that vanish first aren't the dramatic survival supplies. They're the things you've purchased 1,000 times without a second thought. They disappear not because production stops, not because the factories shut down. They disappear because the system was never designed to handle millions of people needing the same thing simultaneously. And that window, that narrow, precious gap between something feels wrong and the shelves are stripped bare, doesn't last long. In some categories, it closes within hours. By the time the average person decides to act, the people who thought ahead are already home, already protected, already invisible to the chaos. 12 items, most under $20, all sitting on shelves right now, but not for much longer once people wake up. Number 12, fuel, the system's first confession. Before medicine, before food, before anything else on this list. The first thing that visibly cracks in any disruption is fuel access. This isn't theory, it's a script that plays out identically every single time. A storm gets named, a supply chain headline breaks on the news. Within hours, not days, gas stations have lines wrapping around corners. Some run completely dry before sunset. And here's the part that should make you uncomfortable. The fuel itself hasn't gone anywhere. Refineries kept running, trucks kept moving. The supply chain didn't actually fail. What happened is far more revealing than a simple shortage. Millions of people made the same individual decision at the exact same moment, and the local distribution infrastructure, built entirely around steady, predictable daily demand, simply cannot absorb that synchronized pressure. The result isn't a shortage, it's a manufactured gridlock. In America, your vehicle isn't a convenience item. It's the operating system your entire life runs on. School pickups, groceries, medical appointments, work. So when instability becomes visible, the primal instinct fires immediately. Get fuel first. That rational individual choice, multiplied by millions of people, produces an irrational collective collapse. Day 1. Stations are slightly crowded. Nothing alarming yet. Day 2. Wait times stretch to an hour. People arrive with extra containers, filling everything they own. Day 3. Out-of-service signs appear. And that image alone, a gas station that cannot pump gas, spreads faster than any news headline. It triggers panic in surrounding areas before they've even experienced a single shortage. The fix requires almost no effort whatsoever. Keep your tank above the halfway point at all times. Not full, just never let it sink below half before refilling. That single habit removes you from the problem entirely. While others waste 3 hours in line on day 2, you don't exist in that equation. That distance between you and the panicking crowd is the entire point of preparation. Ask yourself honestly, what would you do tomorrow if every station within 5 miles had a 2-hour wait? Number 11, Guinage, a headlamp, the tool they never mention. This is the item almost nobody puts near the top of their list. That oversight is exactly what the unprepared have in common. When power fails, the first practical problem isn't food, it isn't water, it's darkness. And most people's instinctive response to darkness is the single least functional option available. Most people grab a flashlight, some light a candle. Both provide light, both create an immediate, compounding problem. A flashlight occupies one of your hands permanently. Every task in a power outage, locating supplies, preparing food, treating an injury, navigating your own home, now happens with one hand. Slower, more error-prone, more exhausting. Candles are objectively worse. The light is stationary, dim, and unstable. In a disrupted home, with tired adults, frightened children, or elderly family members, an open flame is a compounding hazard, not a solution. A headlamp solves both problems simultaneously. The light tracks wherever you look. Both hands remain completely free. Brightness is fully adjustable. A quality LED headlamp runs 8 to 20 hours on a single battery set, zero fire risk. The cost sits between $15 and $40. For that price, you move through a completely dark home with full operational capability. Without one, every other item on this list becomes harder to access, harder to use, and harder to manage after dark. Keep at least 2. Know exactly where they are without thinking. Keep the batteries fresh and rotated. This is the item that makes everything else actually usable when the grid goes down. Number 10, Vindham Gan Minhem, a backup power source, the communication lifeline. A power outage doesn't feel serious in the first 15 minutes. You assume it'll resolve, you wait. By hour 3, something has quietly shifted beneath the surface. Your phone sits at 28%. You've been rationing it carefully. A few messages, a couple of news checks, but it's dropping faster than expected. The router went dark. You're burning through mobile data now, and every single refresh costs battery you cannot recover. That percentage stops being a number. It becomes a countdown. By hour 8, you're making decisions you never expected to face. Do I use the last charge to call someone who can help? Do I even know what's happening outside this house? Can I coordinate anything at all from here? This is how a power outage transforms from an inconvenience into a genuine vulnerability, not because of the darkness itself, because every system keeping you informed, connected, and capable runs on electricity. When they go down together, you stop being a functioning adult with options. The goal of a backup power source isn't to recreate your normal setup. That's neither realistic nor the actual point. The goal is narrower and more specific. Keep your phone alive, maintain internet access where possible, preserve basic lighting. Those 3 functions, communication, information, visibility, are enough to stay stable through most scenarios. Portable power stations and high-capacity power banks accomplish this with zero installation or expertise required. But here's where most people silently, invisibly fail this category. They buy the device, they put it in a drawer, feeling satisfied. 3 months later, when they actually need it, the battery sits at 11%. The device is useless. A power source you haven't maintained isn't preparation. It's a false sense of security. And a false sense of security is arguably more dangerous than no preparation at all. Keep it charged. Keep it accessible. Prioritize clearly when you use it. Phone first, internet second, lighting third. If this is opening your eyes, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe. More of this coming. Number 9, a manual can opener, the forgotten final step. This one almost didn't make the list. It made the list precisely because of how consistently it's absent from households that genuinely believe they're prepared. Canned food is the most common thing people store. Beans, vegetables, soup, fish, a reasonable foundation for any short-term supply. But every single can in that supply depends on one overlooked thing. Electric can openers stop working the moment the power does. Improvising with a knife is slow, unreliable, and genuinely dangerous. Forcing a can open by hand is worse. A manual can opener costs under $10. And yet it remains one of the most consistently absent items in households with substantial canned food stores. People build the pantry carefully. They forget the final step. The resource exists. The access to the resource doesn't. Those are not the same thing. A can you cannot open is functionally identical to not having it at all. Preparation that stops one step before completion isn't preparation. It's an expensive illusion, and that gap only reveals itself at the exact moment you can least afford to discover it. Own at least one reliable manual opener, ideally 2. They're easy to misplace and they fail mechanically over time. One in the kitchen, one in your emergency kit. The cost to close this gap is under $10. The cost of leaving it open is losing access to everything you work to store. Number 8, Mosh water filtration, the invisible contamination. Here is something that almost never gets stated directly, and that gap in public awareness is not accidental. Having water flowing from your tap is not the same thing as having safe water. Most people have never had to confront this distinction. Municipal water treatment is reliable under normal conditions. That reliability becomes an assumption. That assumption creates a dangerous blind spot. Water infrastructure across the United States is aging badly. Old pipes, treatment facilities running on decades-old equipment, distribution systems designed for a different era. When those systems face stress, flooding, power failures at pumping stations, contamination from disrupted sources, the water that continues flowing may no longer be safe without treatment. Here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Compromised tap water usually looks completely normal, clear, no obvious smell, visually indistinguishable from what you drink every day. You cannot assess safety by looking at a glass of water. You can only assess it by knowing the system that produced it is still intact and functioning. In a disruption, that knowledge disappears entirely. Boil advisories are issued far more regularly than most people realize. They follow infrastructure events, flooding, and contamination findings routinely. They require residents to boil all water used for drinking, cooking, and brushing teeth. If your stove is electric and the power is out, that requirement becomes impossible to meet. A portable water filter provides a fully independent option. No power required, no fuel needed, no fire necessary. Gravity-fed filters, pump filters, and filter straws process water from taps or external sources. A household-appropriate unit runs between $20 and $80. This isn't wilderness equipment. It's a verified backup for the one resource your household cannot function without when the system you normally trust becomes unverifiable. Number 7. Medicine and first aid. The midnight failure. Most people frame medical preparedness around worst-case scenarios, major injuries, hospitalizations, events requiring real medical infrastructure and professional intervention. That framing is precisely why most households remain dangerously underprepared for the situations that are actually likely to occur. The real risk isn't dramatic. It's a fever at 11 p.m. when the pharmacy closed 2 hours ago, a child with an ear infection on day 2 of an outage, a cut from routine activity that needs immediate cleaning. Under normal conditions, these are minor inconveniences solved in 20 minutes. Under disrupted conditions, stores crowded, shelves depleted, movement restricted, identical situations compound rapidly. A fever treated within hours is one uncomfortable evening. The same fever, unmedicated, extends across days and affects every member of the household. A clean cut dressed immediately heals without complications. Left unaddressed, it becomes infected and progressively more serious. The pattern is consistent everywhere you look. Small problems resolved quickly stay small. The same problems handled late get dramatically larger. The difference in almost every case is whether the right materials were within arm's reach. This category isn't complex. Pain relievers, fever reducers, antihistamines, antiseptic, sterile gauze, adhesive bandages, a thermometer. A small buffer supply of any prescription medications your household depends on. One more thing worth knowing. Over-the-counter analgesics and fever reducers are among the very first products to clear pharmacy shelves when any public health concern escalates. That's a documented pattern from multiple recent disruption events, not speculation. Prepare this before any signal of disruption appears. The cost is minimal. What it gives you is the ability to manage your household's health on your own schedule. Number 6. A portable cooking method. The heat gap. There's a critical gap in how most people think about food preparedness, and it's one that the system benefits from you never noticing. People focus entirely on what food they have stored. They never think about whether they can actually convert it into a meal. Those are two completely different capabilities. The difference becomes undeniably concrete the moment the power fails. Most American kitchens run entirely on electricity, electric range, microwave, electric oven. When the grid goes down, every single one disappears. You might have pasta, rice, canned beans, and soup in the pantry, but without heat, most of that food is either unsafe or simply unpalatable. You don't lack food, you lack the ability to use food. This pattern repeats in every documented disruption: winter storms, hurricanes, extended regional outages. The consistent account from survivors isn't "we ran out of food," it's "we had food we couldn't prepare." The solution occupies about one cabinet shelf and costs between $20 and $60. A portable butane or propane camping stove, plus a small supply of fuel canisters. Together, they give you the ability to boil water, heat food, and prepare basic meals with complete independence from the grid. There's a psychological dimension here that's easy to underestimate. A warm, cooked meal during a disruption isn't a luxury. It's a stabilizing signal to every member of the household that basic function remains intact. Research on disaster psychology consistently identifies routine as a key factor in maintaining household stability during extended events. 2 points that are absolutely non-negotiable. These stoves and canisters sell out immediately when a significant outage is anticipated. If a major storm is forecast and you don't already own one, you will find empty shelves. Second, combustion stoves must only be used outdoors or in well-ventilated spaces. Carbon monoxide buildup from indoor use has caused documented deaths during outages. This is not a footnote. Have the stove before you need it. Number 5. Fire starters. The single-point failure nobody mentions. The stove is set up perfectly. The fuel canister is attached correctly. The food is ready and waiting, and there is absolutely nothing to light it with. This is one of the most common single-point failures in otherwise well-prepared households, precisely because ignition sources feel so permanently available that nobody actively maintains them. A lighter quietly runs out of fluid with no warning. A box of matches sits forgotten in a drawer for 2 years, and the strike tips degrade silently. The one working lighter in the kitchen gets borrowed and never replaced. In a disruption, you reach for it and find nothing functional. The solution is simple and structural. Keep multiple ignition sources in deliberate, fixed, predetermined locations. One near the stove, one in an emergency kit, one stored separately from both. Rotate them before they run dry. Check them on a regular schedule, the same way you'd check a smoke detector battery. Waterproof matches are worth including specifically because standard matches fail completely in wet conditions. Some butane lighters lose reliable ignition in cold temperatures, critically relevant in northern climates where outages during winter weather tend to coincide. The broader principle applies far beyond fire specifically. There is a category of items so assumed to be present that they're never actively maintained. That untested assumption is exactly where the gap opens, silently, invisibly, until the precise moment you need it and discover it isn't there. Close it. The cost is a few dollars. The failure mode, when it hits you, is immediate and complete. Subscribe, drop a like, and leave a comment. This information needs to spread. Number 4. Diansli Pori, the 2020 Blueprint. If you watched what happened in early 2020, this one needs almost no setup. Toilet paper became the most globally documented example of a supply chain overwhelmed, not by production failure, not by a genuine shortage of materials or manufacturing capacity, by a behavioral cascade. Manufacturing was running at full capacity. Trucks were moving normally. Distribution was functioning entirely as designed. The problem was demand. Millions of households made the decision to stock up within the same impossibly compressed window. The retail replenishment system isn't designed to absorb synchronized behavioral spikes. It's calibrated for steady, predictable, distributed daily consumption. When that pattern breaks suddenly, the restock cycle cannot keep pace. The gap between an empty shelf and a restocked one gets measured in days. This isn't unique to toilet paper. An entire category of everyday essentials, high turnover, low per unit value, assumed to always be available, behaves identically under demand pressure. These items move first and fastest when disruption signals appear, not because they're the most critical items, because everyone reaches for them simultaneously. The absence of basic hygiene products over consecutive days creates real discomfort and genuine disruption to household routine. The moment most people think, "I should grab an extra pack," is the moment the window has already closed. At that point, you're not acting ahead of the crowd. You are the crowd. A few extra packages purchased on a completely normal shopping trip before any signal of disruption. That's the entire strategy. The lesson here isn't about this specific product. It's about recognizing which everyday items behave this way and choosing to act before the moment when everyone else thinks to. Number 3. Mangs, salt and basic seasonings, the psychological survival item. This is the item most likely to be dismissed and skipped entirely. It's also the one that reveals something most preparation guides deliberately avoid addressing. Disruption doesn't just challenge physical survival, it challenges psychological sustainability. And those two things erode through completely different mechanisms. Day 1. The food is adequate. Things feel manageable. Day 2. The food tastes flat. Nothing alarming. You eat without much engagement. By day 3 or 4, something measurable has shifted. Not in physical health, but in the willingness to eat at all. Appetite weakens noticeably. Meals stop feeling like meals. Caloric intake quietly drops below what the situation actually demands. Energy levels and cognitive function follow downward. This isn't pickiness or weakness. It reflects a documented pattern in extended disruption scenarios across multiple cultures and contexts. Appetite regulation depends heavily on sensory variety, flavor, aroma, the basic experience of food that tastes like something intentional. Remove those consistently, and the appetite signal degrades. That degradation carries real downstream consequences for physical and cognitive performance. Salt is the absolute baseline. Without it, food doesn't just taste bland. It tastes wrong in a way that progressively undermines the willingness to consume it. Simple staples like rice or pasta become genuinely difficult to eat consistently over multiple days. Beyond flavor, salt carries genuine preservation utility. It inhibits bacterial growth and extends the functional life of food when refrigeration is unavailable. Under those conditions, salt isn't just seasoning, it's a functional tool with a second critical use. Basic dried seasonings, pepper, garlic powder, dried herbs, restore enough sensory variety to keep appetite stable across consecutive days in a way that unseasoned food simply cannot. Cheap, lightweight, shelf-stable, takes almost no space, among the first things to disappear in disruptions. Not because anyone prioritizes them, but because everyone realizes their necessity at the exact same moment. Buy them before that moment arrives. Number 2, Meamin, batteries, the silent countdown. Your headlamp doesn't function without them. Your emergency flashlight is useless without them. Your battery-powered radio, The most reliable source of official information when the entire grid is dark goes completely silent without them. Batteries have a specific insidious failure mode that separates them from almost every other item on this list. They provide absolutely no warning that they're depleting. A device can appear completely functional right up until the exact moment it stops working entirely. You won't know the batteries are near depletion until you turn the flashlight on in complete darkness and nothing happens. Under normal conditions, you replace batteries when you happen to think of it. It feels like something you can always do whenever convenient, until the moment that assumption breaks. Stores are closed, local stock is already gone, you cannot leave. And you discover that the flashlight is dead, the thermometer won't activate, and the radio is completely silent. The documented pattern across multiple disruption events is unambiguous. Batteries are consistently among the first items to clear from shelves, not because manufacturing stops, because demand spikes from multiple simultaneous directions. Every household reaching for flashlights, radios, backup devices, and medical monitors at the identical moment. By the time most people think to buy batteries, the shelves are already stripped. Stock a supply now. Rotate them. Batteries lose charge over time in storage and cannot be trusted after years sitting unused. Check every device in your home that handles safety or communication functions and confirm the batteries are current. Rechargeable batteries are practical for everyday use. For emergency preparedness specifically, maintain a dedicated supply of fresh disposables, ones that require no grid access to charge. The investment is minimal. The failure mode is immediate, entirely preventable, and completely within your control to avoid. Number 1. Venus Fuel, the hidden master key. Fuel appeared at number 12, so why does it close the entire list? Because every single item covered between then and now shares one hidden dependency that nobody discusses openly. That dependency is fuel. Without it, you cannot reach the pharmacy when medication runs out. You cannot get to the store for a water filter or replacement batteries. You cannot transport someone who needs urgent help. You cannot leave a situation that becomes genuinely unsafe. You cannot execute any contingency plan whatsoever. Fuel isn't just one item in a disruption. It's the master variable that determines whether you can respond to every other item on this entire list. A half-empty tank on the wrong day doesn't just stop your vehicle, it stops every option you have. All of them, simultaneously. That's the real weight of this category. Not the cost per gallon, not the inconvenience of waiting in line. The fact that every practical decision you might need to make, every other preparation discussed here, runs through the foundational assumption that you can physically move when you need to. When that assumption breaks, everything breaks with it. Bonus, a hand crank or solar radio, the off-grid truth channel. When the grid dies, your digital information streams die with it. Your apps go dark, social media becomes inaccessible, streaming news disappears, and in the information vacuum, rumors spread faster than verified facts. That's when the panic genuinely accelerates. A hand crank or solar-powered emergency radio costs between $20 and $50. It requires no batteries, no grid power, and no internet connection. It receives AM, FM, and NOAA weather alert broadcasts, the government's own emergency communication infrastructure, designed specifically for this scenario. Here's the uncomfortable truth about information during disruptions. The most dangerous moment isn't when you lack resources. It's when you lack accurate information to make decisions about those resources. People make catastrophically poor choices under uncertainty driven by rumor. A reliable, independent information source keeps your decision-making grounded in reality rather than fear. Keep one in your emergency kit. Test it regularly. Know how to use it before you desperately need it. The window that's closing. Every item discussed here costs under $50. Most cost under $20. None require specialized knowledge. None require unusual effort or expertise. All are sitting on shelves right now at normal prices with zero competition. What determines whether they matter is entirely a question of timing. The gap between "I should probably handle that" and "I can no longer handle that" doesn't open because of dramatic headline events. It opens the moment a critical threshold of public concern gets crossed, and at that moment, millions of people respond simultaneously. Supply chains engineered for steady, distributed, predictable demand cannot absorb synchronized pressure. They buckle. The window closes. The cost of waiting gets paid in full by everyone who waited. The people who are already covered at that moment aren't the ones who moved fastest after the signal appeared. They're the ones who were never in the same vulnerable position as the crowd to begin with. They acted earlier, not dramatically earlier, just ahead of the moment when everyone else finally thought to. preparation isn't an ideology. It isn't a personality type or a political identity. It's the straightforward recognition that the systems we depend on have real, documented limits. That those limits surface at unpredictable moments that nobody officially announces in advance, and that the window for low-cost, easy, low-stress preparation is always, without exception, before the event, not during it. 12 items, most under $20, every one of them available right now. The only question is whether you act before the window closes or whether you wait until the exact moment everyone else does. Which of these 12 do you already have covered? And which one genuinely surprised you? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this content is something you think people need to see, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who isn't ready yet.